Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be doing the driver's seat for today's show as we strive to learn how to stop doing deals and start closing for life. We got a great show for you today, and we have a great guest for you today. We have Laura Pamatian. Laura, so good to have you on. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate everything that you do. Education is so important.
I appreciate that. We try. So, Laura, why don't you tell everybody what it is you do?
So what I do, I work with owners in real estate companies, developers, syndicators, commercial property owners, helping them to implement AI and blockchain into their real estate projects.
Good stuff. That was nicely done.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot said in a little bit of time. So What got you started in that space, Laura?
When did I start?
No, what got you started?
What got me started? Well, I've been in real estate and development for 20 years, and I started in general brokerage, and I on the island of Maui, and then I niched into luxury pre-construction hotel branded resort real estate. So Ritz-Carlton Residences, Mandarin Oriental, L'Auberge, Fairmont. I started, really long story short, right? 12 projects later, I started learning about blockchain, and I realized very, very quickly, being in the industry, how impactful it was going to be and how disruptive it was going to be. And I was, I thought now's the time to pivot into the space, and that's what I did.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So
how's that going for you? How do you feel it's coming along? Are you seeing the movement that you're expecting? Where are you? Where are things?
Yeah, I think, 3 years ago, I started down this journey, and at first it's a lot to kind of figure out what the language is and learn the meaning of the words and the application and all of those kinds of things. But now it just seems like there's more and more understanding around the space. There's these really big players that are entering the space, in the real estate space, that have been known for, obviously massive amounts of leadership, and they're very well known companies, and they're starting to learn more about blockchain and tokenization, and they realize that it's not crypto, and they've done the due diligence, and they are working through the education and the learning curve, and they're starting to say things like tokenization is the future, right? Blockchain is the future. And you have these really big companies that have the means and the bandwidth to, do all of their due diligence, and they are finding it very interesting. And I find that very encouraging.
That's going to be very validating. Yeah, sure. Like they're seeing what you saw a long time ago, which is great. Yeah. And so I guess that distinction really is kind of a tough one, because there's kind of this lumping together with blockchain and cryptocurrency that they're the same thing. And they very much are not. The blockchain is the underpinnings of what made Bitcoin what it was, or what it is. But what if you were going to take, and I know you do this, if you want to explain to our people listening what the difference is, how would you do that?
Yeah, well, blockchain is, like you said, it is the technology that cryptocurrency is built on. It's also the technology that tokenization is built on, right? So when we're looking at the difference between currency, coins, tokens, there's a very, especially in real estate tokenization, there's a few differences, right? Coins, there isn't necessarily anything backing the coin, right? The valuation is derived from perception and
Market's reaction, sort of.
yes, exactly, demand, etc. So with tokenization, asset-backed tokenization, securitized real estate, right, which is
Right.
really tokenized securities, they are backed by real estate.
Yeah.
So there's actual valuation. The valuation is derived from the market, right? The market valuation of real estate, which people understand. You can really understand that. The other thing is that tokens can be programmed, right? We can program compliance and all types of compliance automation. Thank you, into the token.
Sure.
Thank you. And you can do that with coins, right? Cryptocurrency.
Sure. And so basically, I suppose to summarize, kind of cryptocurrency is kind of trying to replace money. At least some of it is. Whereas this is replacing or attempting to fix something else. Crypto is like, at least Bitcoin was attempting to fix money. And this is trying to fix the kind of the existing model of partnership that exists in commercial real estate. And so while they're using the same technology, I guess that's basically the big difference between the two. And am I getting this right? I mean, that's kind of how I have my head wrapped around it, but this is kind of your space more so than it is.
Yeah. No, you're very well versed in the space, Josh. I mean, I know that you've done your due diligence and your dedication to learning. So for sure. Yeah, you know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't want to look silly in front of a room full of people that are expecting me to know what the heck I'm talking about. Right? That's always the fear to keep you on your toes.
Right.
So, Laura, what do you like best about doing what you do?
I love the idea of pioneering. I love the idea of, really moving the real estate industry forward. Being in the real estate industry for so long, I have seen how antiquated it has been. And I mean, nothing has changed. 20 years in this space, and we're still doing things the same way. It's just insane to me. So I think that we're long overdue. It's very exciting. It's and it's going to benefit everyone on every level, right? Especially with tokenization. I mean, we talk about that all the time, that it benefits the owner of the property, and it also benefits the investor, and it's a win-win. So, how does that not succeed? How does that,
Sure.
process not succeed?
Right. It basically, the problem it purports to solve, it really does solve well, and it doesn't create additional problems along the way. I mean, maybe there are some more hurdles to overcome. Maybe it's a little bit more, the regulation is maybe a little bit more arduous, but the things it fixes, it does so well, and the benefits it gives everybody, it seems like it's not one of those solutions trying to find a problem. It's actually solving a real problem that existed for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially with what you just said, the idea is that, with tokenization, especially, I think it's the most practical application of blockchain in the real estate space, tokenizing the asset-backed, tokenizing the tokenization of securities. And in that, we have a very clear boundary of compliance and regulation, right? There's this existing structure that already works, that's already in place. And as long as you color inside those lines, then you're safe, right? You're doing things the right way. You do things compliantly, you work with the SEC, you do things the way that they're supposed to be done. And on top of that, you are securing your interest, the information on blockchain.
Sure.
Right.
And I suppose that's actually an added benefit, is the sense that there's a greater level of oversight, if you will, from the SEC on these deals over what there might be in a typical syndication deal. So that's maybe even a greater level of comfort that an investor potentially has with one of these.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So what do you think makes you good at it, Laura?
Oh, I don't know. I think that I just really love it. Like I don't really see it as work. I think it's interesting, it's fun, it's it's constantly pushing my boundaries. I think that I'm constantly every single day learning, which I love to do. And it's fun. I mean, I'm working with people all the time that, they have their opinions, and you're having conversations, and your brain is engaged. And, I just find that, I don't know, the utmost fun. So
Sure.
yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I mean that idea of growing as a person and learning, expanding more, pushing yourself,
Yeah.
it's definitely a good feeling. So what are the most important things you learn in the process of what you do, whether from a business standpoint, if it's something specific about tokenization, whatever? I mean, pearls of wisdom that you think you've gleaned along the way, or things that have mattered to you.
In this process of learning about the space.
You know what, your life, whatever, it's absolutely sandbox for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with this, someone said to me very, very early on, learn the language, right? We're talking about blockchain. Learn the language or fall behind, right? You have to understand what this is, and you have to put in the time to understand and be patient with the understanding and the learning process. And that is what is going to help you, stay in this game and stay ahead of the curve and lead and pioneer and do all of these things that it's gonna, that are important for progress, but also, just to be able to move the space forward.
Sure.
And, that was something that was really important early on. And I decided that's what I was going to do, take the time. And it was frustrating, let me tell you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not a techie kind of person, it's definitely, you're going into somebody else's, like I didn't even own a hoodie. So, I mean, like I was so out of place in all of these conventions, like mom's basement is not a place I've lived in a long time, but there's kind of this sort of subculture of, the dark eyes, the dark circles under the eyes, banging away on the computer sort of people that I talk to. I mean, like, they're super bright, but like, I don't feel like I'm amongst my people right now. Like, and, a lot of times they just don't have a lot of patience and tolerance for folks that don't get it. And so you have to take and find the people that are willing to be generous with the information to kind of get you read in on this thing. Because I know for me, I wasn't the early adopter guy. I got brought in kind of late on after the fact. And so for me, it was a very steep learning curve. And very much I experienced a little bit of frustration, kind of the sitting there. Like the first things I went to, I remember just sort of sitting there and like, I have to be alone with myself with this information for a while to fully let the ramifications sort of work themselves out in my mind. And I know when I teach my ACE in the crypto class, the first crypto class, it's largely the big idea class. And you can just sort of see people's eyes. I don't want to say glaze over, but they're just kind of there. Like at the end, I'm not sure if I have questions, but I know in about a week I will have some.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of, it has to percolate almost a little bit.
And I think that I think we're still all very early, right? I think that this is still very, very, very early, and there's a long way to go. And it's really interesting being down here in South Florida when you have these conversations, because it feels like everyone knows, right? Everyone's doing it. Everyone knows. We're kind of like just trying to keep up a little bit down here, right? But then you kind of get out there, and I travel, I go to conferences in other locations, and I say blockchain, and they're like, I don't know what you mean. And I'm like,
Bitcoin, you mean Bitcoin?
Florida. Yeah, exactly. But I'm grateful for South Florida and Miami and the whole vibe, and the way that the state really has embraced the technology from all over, right? Tampa and Orlando and Miami and Palm Beach, and yeah.
I mean, it seems to be the newer money is all over this, as opposed to kind of the establishment money of the New York, Chicago.
Right.
I mean, there's been a lot of stuff done in those markets, but there seems to be a greater appetite, and even from the on top level, from the political level, there seems to be an embracing of this and kind of wanting to move this forward. So
Yeah.
the environment seems to be a little bit of a hothouse for that here, and that has been a nice thing.
Yeah.
What do you think makes you passionate about this, Laura? I can tell you are.
Oh, I love real estate, and I love learning, and I love teaching. And I think that all of those things fall right in line with what's happening in the space. Yeah, I'm very inquisitive naturally, right? I'm very interested in things I don't understand naturally. So I think that's gives me some sort of drive to kind of overcome what I don't know. And I think it's really fun. It's innovative. Amazing things are coming out of it. There's amazing things that are happening that are going to benefit everyone. I mean, populations all over the world are going to benefit from this technology. And I'm very passionate about that in general.
Makes sense. It
Yeah.
makes sense. So, Laura, when would somebody want to come see you? Somebody that's listening here that they're interested in getting involved with this? Who is it? Who are you helping? What's the agent you want to talk to? What's the investor you want to talk to? When's the time for that agent to come seek you out?
Yeah, I think, the idea is that right now I started in general real estate, residential. I've kind of moved over into the commercial side. So a lot of our clients are owners of commercial real estate. They're developers. They're syndicating to acquire product. They have portfolio of product, and we can help create the option of liquidity in those products. We can help to raise capital through new non-traditional means, right? Regulation A, Regulation CF, which we talk about, you and I, a lot. And I feel like, really anyone who's curious, but more so for us, where we can help and, maybe be a value add to someone who's in the real estate space, an agent, a broker, is to be a resource for them, for their clients, right?
Sure.
If there are owners in the commercial space that aren't aware of this, I mean, it's a simple question. Like, are you aware of how blockchain is going to benefit your business? It's making big impacts on the commercial real estate space, residential also, right? I think, but right now, a lot of the space has been focused on the institutional level and kind of working down from there. So, but it's going to seriously impact residential as well. And agents need to be aware. And thank you for making them aware, right? I mean, I know that you're definitely leading in this space. So,
well, no, it's an important idea, and it seems, again, like any investor, it's always looking at the same thing. Does the properties of whatever the thing is, do they make sense? Do they solve a real problem? I mean, I watched my father with the internet stocks when they first came out. He's like, this is the next thing. This is where it's at. I mean, he was in everything at the beginning. Saw it, like, it's a real problem. He was a business owner his whole life. I can own cheap land here and take and do business in all over the world. It's genius. And so, does it solve a real problem? And if you're familiar with the syndication model that exists, there are problems that are built in there. So talk a little bit, if you would, just kind of the difference in the regulation, if you will, between C and A. Just kind of give folks a little bit of a taste of what size product, what project are you looking at, and when do you need to take a look at going Reg A and whatever.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, there's, as you know, like 90 something percent of all of the money being raised out there is done through a Reg D offering, right? It's very traditional. And when it comes to tokenization and the option of liquidity, which is really the benefit, right? There's a hurdle when you're working with a Reg D offering, right? And the hurdle is that you have a limited number of investors that can participate in that offering. So 2,000 investors. If I'm going to raise capital, let's say I want to raise capital for a new development, and I'm going to, raise maybe $40 million. And the idea is to create the option of liquidity for those investors on the back end, right? So if I have 40 investors come in with $1 million, that's great. I could do that under a Reg D. It's fantastic, right? Yep. But when we go to the secondary and they're going to sell on the backside, right? How much liquidity is that investor going to get if I can only have 2,000 shareholders on my cap table?
Right.
Right. So that's kind of the
flexibility.
So you really want to think it through when we're looking at new opportunities with Regulation A and CF, right? Regulation CF, the exemption CF is a crowdfunding exemption, right? Up to $5 million you can raise over 12 months. There's no number of investors, right? There's no cap on the number of investors. You can raise from anyone in the world, right? Foreign investors, US investors, et cetera. There is still that 1 year restricted resale like you have in a Reg D, but you have that, that really nice option of liquidity on the back end. It's $5 million raise. So how much liquidity do you need? I don't know, right? But with Reg A, when we look at that, and I don't want to get too long-winded here, but that is really the most ideal exemption for tokenization. And if the company qualifies for the exemption, that's really the most ideal, right? There is a $75 million cap over 12 months. You can have unlimited amount of investors. You can raise from domestic, foreign investors, and there's no restricted resale, right? So there is no 1 year hold or restricted resale on the security like there is on a CF or a Reg D. So we're seeing that this interest in the Reg A is becoming a very big deal, especially in tokenization, especially when we're talking about liquidity on the back end. And that's where we're starting to see more interest. So we're helping those who are raising capital, that want to raise capital for projects, talk them through the regulations, select which one might be, appropriate. And then we walk them through that entire process, right? From A to Z, and that's legal, it's compliance, it's the tech, right? Tokenizing, it's a technology platform.
Setting up the resale market, the
custody, whole... ATS, exactly, all of that.
Yeah. And so I wanted to give folks a taste of that just to see what an important resource having someone like you really is that understands all this stuff.
Thanks, Josh.
You talk about it very, very simply, but as you do, it's very obvious that there's a whole lot to know. So let me ask you this.
Okay.
A little bit of a change of topic angle.
Okay.
What are you most proud of in business that you've accomplished to this point?
Oh, I think, right now, I think at this point in my career, initially it was making the jump from general brokerage into, that really glamorous life of pre-construction hotel branded resort real estate, right? I was in the Caribbean, I was in Hawaii, I was, all of these amazing locations. It's always this vacation feel. Like I was pretty proud of that. Yeah. And now I just feel like, I've done that part of my career and I had an amazing experience. But now pivoting into this space where it's new and innovative and it's a very big, it's a heavy lift,
Sure.
Starting your own company and, trying to get that off the ground and getting your name and your brand out there and people to understand that, you understand what you're talking about and can help them. So I think right now that's probably where I'm at. I feel that, I don't know, I feel like it was a very big chance to take.
Yeah, took guts.
Yeah, because I have a security in, in what I was doing, but I'm really, I'm up for it. I love being challenged. So
like the challenge. I love it. Yeah. Good stuff. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
All right. So if you had to give our listeners, you're a person now taking a big chance, been successful in other areas. If you had to give our listeners one piece of advice, what would it be?
Learn the language.
Learn the language. All right.
Yeah.
Of whatever you do, folks, that carries on beyond what we're talking about right now. Yeah. If it's real estate, learn the language. It's the beginning. And so many people in the book that I just finished writing, there's two things you have to do in this business. Learn what the hell you're doing and then advertise yourself as someone that knows what the hell they're doing. Everybody in this business skips step one, goes to steps two, and never does step one. They never learn what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great advice that transcends tokenization or any business you're in. I know when I started doing electrical work, first thing I had to do was learn the language of what are these things called. And so, yeah, if you're gonna take anything seriously, folks, that's such great advice. Learn the language. You mentioned before, and I wanted to say something about it, and I saw something shiny. I got distracted, I guess. But that idea of paying attention. That idea that, you're curious and you're interested and you're engaged. I say it's the most important bill that you need to pay in business. You got to pay attention. You got to be aware of what's going on, what's different, what's new, curious, and always looking for what there is to learn. Life is a huge adventure if you let it be. And so many people just find this little niche they carve out for themselves, and they just live that same little thing. And when anything changes, they're not prepared for it because they never were paying attention the whole way along the way. And so they get left behind.
Yeah, I think that's really, the idea is, change is inevitable, right? And the idea of, especially in the blockchain space, you have to be in it every single day, because every single day it's different. We were doing, and I say this all the time, like, we're going to do things today that seem very innovative and forward thinking. And by the time, others start learning about what we're doing, we're already 2 and 3, 4 steps ahead of what we were doing, right? So people are kind of coming in, ahead of the game. So yeah, I think it's always, it's going to be ever changing, and it's super exciting. It's so exciting what's happening.
Yeah, no, it really, really is. All right. So if you could recommend a book or a movie to people listening, what would be the top of the Laura list of a book or a movie?
Oh gosh, that's such high pressure. Are we talking about like business or?
Does it?
Okay, I have this favorite book. I know this is I have this favorite book, and I have read it, I don't even know, a couple dozen times, and I've given it away, I don't know, a couple dozen times. It's called The Four Agreements.
Okay.
It's Don Miguel Ruiz, and it is like the easiest read. It's probably like this thin, but it's my favorite book. So that,
that's good enough.
That might be somewhere to start. Yeah.
All right. I love it.
Yeah.
And so I know you're a busy lady. You're always doing something. What's next on the horizon for you? What's the next big thing that you're working towards?
I think right now I just really am trying to feel more established. I mean, my goal right now is to continue to learn and to continue to fine tune, my knowledge and being able to help other people with the process, especially in real estate, those owners, those developers, those that are trying to raise capital, because there's such a new way, right? It's such a better way, and everyone's going to benefit from it. And it's really exciting. So I just hope to get that out there and, kind of for this year, can I continue down that path?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a change here.
Okay.
Almost survived the full gauntlet. What do you do to unwind?
Oh, I go to yoga.
I was going to say I had a sneaking suspicion based upon the conversation we had before this started that was going to be the answer.
Yeah, every morning it's yoga, the gym, but yoga is just my me time, and it's hot yoga, and I try to do that almost every day, 5 days at least. Yeah. Yeah.
Hardcore.
Yeah. That's my favorite right now.
All right. Well, you survived. Final question. If folks want to find you, where can they find you?
So I am the only Laura Pamatian on the whole wide world web, right? World Wide Web. I am very easy to find online. You can find me at heightzerorealestate.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So those would probably be the best places to find me.
Good stuff, Laura. Thank you so much for your time hanging out with us and giving people a little taste.
Yeah, you're awesome. And thank you for what you're doing, and just keep it up, because people need what you're doing. I mean, keep educating. It's so important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully we'll see you again sometime soon. Have a great one. And to everybody else, thanks for listening.